Britain has the woodwows, Australia the yowie, Borneo its wild men. There are yeti in the Himalayas, and most famously, the United States and Canada have the Sasquatch, better known as the North American Bigfoot. Throughout the world there are similar stories of very tall, hair-covered humanoids stalking the forests and jungles. China, Japan, Europe, they've all got variations of these elusive cryptids.
When I was 15, I lived in Salford, which is a typical northwest town. There's a pit, there's a dock, there's a mill, you know, nothing extraordinary about it whatsoever. I was an ordinary schoolgirl, I was 15, and it was the year when you do your mocks, and I didn't want to go in, so I didn't go in. I was with my friend, and there was just be a place, there's a country park right next to our school, and my school was Bewell Hill, and it looked like a typical Harry Potter mansion. And in the next set of grounds was this old, I think it's Edwardian actually, the mansion, and it was just left to rack and ruin. It was originally a playing field in the 1500s. The first building to go on it burnt down, and then this building was built. And it's said that John Dee, who was an alchemist, actually summoned a demon there. I didn't find that out for about 30 years. I was with my friend and we were in the bushes and we were having a cigarette, and the reason we were in the bushes was you could see out and the teacher couldn't see in, and the teacher would patrol looking for people wagging it, and that's what we were doing. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon. May, June, really nice day, really nice and warm, and we lay down, we're giggling between each other, and for a split second, and I mean a millisecond, I noticed a movement in the bushes, and as I looked, I made eye contact with something, and it leant out in the bushes like this, and it looked like a man and an ape that had been pushed together somehow. Really thick brow ridge, very, very muscular jaw muscles. I remember them more than anything else because I thought he was going to come out and grab me and just pull me into bushes. And he looked at me like this. And I'm going to be honest, I pushed my friend to the floor without thinking, and I was gone. I ran, kicking and screaming, snot and tears, the whole 9 yards. I looked back, not to see if she was safe, to see if he was coming after me, self-preservation, and he just leant back into the bushes. It is absolutely impossible that he could have been there that day. Physically impossible. But I saw him. I didn't ask to see him, I didn't want to see him, but I did. I was 15 then, and there was no internet, so the only thing I could do was go to the library. And back then I realised that in history times there was the woodwoos, the Green Man, Jack of the Green. He's got many names. A caretaker that lives within the woods that looks like a human and an ape combined. A woodwoos is described as completely hair covered. I remember coming to on the East Lancs. If you're from the northwest of England, you know that road. And the reason I came to there was I had to cross an area that was about 8 foot tall in grass. And my first conscious thought was, they'll be in there. So I ran the long way home. I ran into the house, I told Mum what had happened. Mum said, get upstairs, take your uniform off. Your dad sees that, you're in trouble. That was all the counselling I got. And that were it. And it changed me as a person. I spent most of my life living as far away from the countryside as I could because I thought he was behind every tree. The first time I ever spoke about him on camera, I completely broke down. It was like going back there that day. And that's why I do the job I do now, because I think there are other people like me out there. They might not have seen a woodwoos, they might have seen a UFO or they've had paranormal experience, but I understand what it's like to live with a life that you can't explain. I spent my life growing up where people called me all kinds of names, used to do this, you know. I can't help what I saw. What's more important to me is, why did I see him? Why has somebody before me not seen him? Was there something about me and me and him connected somehow? Or was it just a complete chance, two worlds met at that moment for a split second, and that were it. It were overdone with and it were gone.
In the USA, it is pretty much accepted that there is a thing called Bigfoot. Its vast, untamed landscape, plenty of remote wilderness for previously undiscovered humanoid species to live peaceful, undisturbed lives, away from the prying eyes of humans. There are countless tales of hunters crossing paths with the beasts deep within the forests, and they all describe the same foul smell, voices in their heads telling them to leave the area, and an overwhelming sense of dread and fear.
A driver outside Risley Prison, same thing, 4:30 in the morning. It's what he described as a creature the size of a pony, thickly muscled and black, that stood up onto two legs and crossed the road in front of the van. He's got to go back to work the day after, he's got to pay his mortgage. So for me, that's where my interest lies, getting those people over that hump and breaking that down into as small as we can and saying, right, you've been through something most people would not come through, but you've come through it and you're fine and you're still here and you've got enough about yourself that you come to me to ask for answers. That gives me, no, I know that the will's in there. You want to know what's happened. That's what we should concentrate on, not the fear. And let's try and work out what this thing is that you've seen.
The 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, the first ever filmed sighting of Bigfoot, has been stabilised and studied for years, with scientists now asserting that the sighting is of a genuine non-Homo sapien humanoid.
They could be interdimensional, coming from a different reality, a different dimension, or they could even be operating on a vibrational level that's higher than our three-dimensional reality that we're currently in, and it's almost similar to the spiritual plane. Maybe it's somewhere in between. That's where you get a lot of cryptids that tend to exhibit paranormal type of activity, like Bigfoot, where it seems to, it's the hide and seek champion of the world. People can hear it, feel it near them, have rocks thrown at them, there's nothing there, and they're very rarely seen. Or they watch them, they're seen, and then they seem to vanish in front of your eyes. They have this mystical quality to them. And does that mean, are they not physical beings, or are they maybe in tune vibrational energies that they're able to shift in certain ways that makes it look like magic to those who don't understand? It's either technology or it's an understanding of nature, natural elements that they're able to manipulate.
Do you see that? Over there, look, over there. Do you see that?
What the hell?
Wait, because that was it again, right there. Wait.
I don't like this.
You see that? Right there. Look.
Oh my god. That's not an animal. I don't like it.
Okay, fuck.
We decided to have a quick chat with our good friend Joe Vogel, a resident of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, a town famous for its annual Groundhog Day, an area that is no stranger to unusual occurrences. Joe is a survivor of 2 individual Bigfoot encounters, and I wanted to share his story and find out what it's like to live alongside these wild and unknown creatures in the modern age. Over to you, Joe.
My first encounter happened the day after Christmas in 1979. It would have been, I believe, a Wednesday, and that comes back around later. And my father was a heavy-duty electrician and power lineman, and he was working at a big powerhouse job down in in between Louisiana, in between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And he had come home for Christmas. And the day after Christmas, the 26th, my mother and I got up in the morning early and drove my dad to the Pittsburgh airport. And he got on the plane and left. When he came back, we stopped and had lunch. And then on the way back, we did what we were going to do. My mom was a nurse that worked afternoon shift. And I wanted to go play with a new sled that I had gotten for Christmas. I wanted to go try out the new sled, so I walked over to my friend Chucky's place, and he lived about a half mile from me. And normally that was easily accessed because I just walked through yards and fields. But we had had a significant snowfall, so I had to follow the roads around this, was a Christian seminary. So I had to follow the roads, and I went there, and I sled ride and skied for probably 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon. And after doing that, I decided, well, it's time to go home. My mom's going to be leaving for work, or she was already gone. She worked from 4 p.m. to midnight. And I started walking, and I got to the proximity that I could physically see our house, just the very roof of it sticking above the hill. We lived down in a bit of a hollow, and all you can really see of the house at first is the roof. And I just got to about there. I just crested this hill. The road is snow covered. It's snowing lightly. And I got this stupid sled rolled up under my arm. And as I approached our driveway, about 75 feet away to our driveway, about 50 feet from me, a large gray Sasquatch walked across the road right in front of me. Just, to describe it, I would say it was roughly around 7 feet tall, and it was lanky build. It was not built like the big hulking Sasquatches that you see in films and pictures and whatnot. I was like, it was built like a basketball player. And it walked right across the road from pine trees across the road to behind a large snow berm that had been pushed up by the plow trucks. And it walked straight down my neighbor's driveway. I lost sight of it for a few seconds as it went behind that snowbank. And as it went down, I looked around the back of the snowbank and I caught it right as it walked around the corner of my neighbor's house, and it disappeared behind the house. My reaction was initially, of course, I was startled and I was somewhat frightened, but I was not scared. Because in my belief, this creature did not see me. It offered no malevolence toward me, and it gave me no reason to believe that it would have done anything had it seen me. It just seemed to be ambling on its way as if it were on its way to market. And I stood there for a while and thought, okay, what did I see? At first I thought it was my neighbor. I thought, okay, it could be my neighbor, Mr. Riffle. And I yelled out, Mr. Riffle, is that you? And I once again noticed behind the house there was no truck, and he had a full-size Ford truck, and it was not there. So I knew it wasn't Mr. Riffle. And at that point, I just ran as hard and as fast as I could, right straight to my house, to the front door, got in, locked the door behind me, and went straight to my room, kicked my boots off, got under the covers, and fell asleep with everything on, my coat and everything, and my snow pants. And I slept. I don't know. I did fall asleep because I woke up the next day and my mother had asked me, why didn't you eat dinner last night? She had made me dinner and had left it on the stove. And I just told her that I was tired when I got home from sled riding and I didn't have an appetite. And I guess that was good enough. So she didn't ask much more, and I didn't offer much more, and I kind of didn't tell my family until many years later when one night my son and I had a conversation and told him what I had seen. Out of fear. I was feared my friends would ridicule me, or whatnot, because I knew it was a thing, and I was there, so it would have been me trying to prove it to the rest of everybody. So I guess at 10 years old, I must have understood that there was no use fighting this. I'll just let it go. And I had a little hard time going outside the house there for a while. I made sure I looked everywhere if I did go outside for a short while, but I readapted quickly because after all, it was Christmas break and I had a ton of new toys to play with. So that softened the blow significantly.
So, is the North American Bigfoot real? The ever-growing number of eyewitness reports and collected evidence clearly illustrates that they are an actual phenomena. It's just we don't know exactly what the phenomena is, but it is very, very real.
The theories behind most cryptids, whether it's Bigfoot or Dogman, is that they are just an animal, just a corporeal, flesh and blood animal. What I saw looked flesh and blood, but it cannot have been. It can't have been. And for all he looked at, it can't have been. But there are many theories behind what they are. Some people believe they are dimensional, so they can move through different dimensions, and they can appear in a way that will terrify you or will entice you, depending on what their agenda is. So if they're here because they feed on fear, they're going to go for a young, weak, small thing and get as much fear out of them as they can. A lot of cryptids, even alien races, they don't have emotions like we do, and they crave them. Even if it's fear, depression, they just haven't had them. So they will take that from a human. I've spoken to somebody who worked in Preston, and as she's driving out at 8:30 at night, she sees a man walking down the middle of the road who suddenly becomes a reptilian. And her words to me were, "Deborah, he was feeding on my fear. It took everything I had to break his gaze and look away from him." That tells me that they're shape-shifting in some way. That's not a flesh and blood animal, is it? Other people believe, and there is theory behind it that I agree with, that they are a brother or a cousin of some kind to man. So a early hominid of some kind. A Denisovian, so we don't recognise them for what they are. And because we see them with hands and feet, could they be, of the bloodline of humans? Then it could be extraterrestrial. It could be coming from a different place. They might be visiting our Earth for a resource. We're seeing them, and we see this monster, and then they're gone the next thing, and we don't see them again. There's a myriad of theories behind it. Each new witness that you talk to has their own theory. So for me, the worst thing I could do was say, I'm an expert and this is what they are, because I don't know what they are. I really don't. Until I sit down with one like I am with you now, I won't know that, will I? So I believe that any witness or anyone interested should know all of the theories. We shouldn't poo-poo any of them, because it's like having a jigsaw, throwing the box away, chucking half the things, and then going, right, well, let's see if I can make this jigsaw. It's not going to happen. So we need, no matter how far out your theory is, we need to hear it, because there might be a modicum of truth in it. Each of these witnesses might have a piece to that puzzle. You put them together in one place, and suddenly we have an understanding. We think, right, that's a pattern. I've seen that happen a number of times. That's what's going on there. So that would fit in with more of a flesh and blood type creature. Unfortunately, there is evidence for both, or all. There's evidence that they are flesh and blood. They leave footprints, we get hair samples. But there are also evidences where people say they disappear in front of them, or they cloak. One minute you can see them and then they've gone. I've seen actual flare footage where you can see them on the flare, but not with your naked eye. How is that possible? So going forward, I'd like to try different tech. I'd like to try looking at things like maybe body mapping tech, or something that we haven't used in the field before. Spectrum light. We might be able to see them in a different light form than we actually see them at the moment. That person that's seeing them might have that ability. It might just be a natural thing within their eyes that they're seeing what we can't. Why do so many children see them? You got to ask that question. I've got reports where the child's seen something and they brought dad's attention to it and he can't see it. And I said, well, maybe they're just on a different eye level than we are. Children are more accepting of anything, You speak to children these days about cryptids, it's not a problem to them whatsoever. They believe that they exist, they're not frightened of them, and they just want to talk about them. It's us old fogies that kind of put the dark connotation onto them. And I just think we should leave that behind, the satanic panic, as I call it. We need to know. We have a need to know. We need to pull it apart, know how it works, and put it back together again. Humans are not very good at being told. So I'm telling you now what you're thinking. In your head you're thinking, no, you're not. You're not telling me what I'm thinking. That's how I see witnesses. I see each one of them. People say, Debbie, how can you work with him? And he thinks it's flesh and blood. But you can work with him and he thinks it's from a planet. Because it's his truth, it's not mine. I wasn't with him when it happened. Wasn't stood next to him. So who am I to judge him, What I can do is bring his story forward. And other people might say, actually, I've seen that. Or, it might not have been in the same area as you. It might have been 500 miles away. But I know what you're going through. We put them together, we get them talking, and then I move on to another case. And that's what I do.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe, and if you'd like to join the debate, feel free to leave a comment below. I'm Roy Bassnett, and this has been our Unexplained World.